Gradually pushing the boundaries has undoubtedly become the domain of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Starting with the first part of the series, which was originally meant to be just a pixel racing game, and ending with GTA V, which boldly provided players with the titties that are widely adored by Roman Bellic.
Oh man,
At some point, however, according to some experts, Rockstar was out of line. What's more, it was so serious that the famous so-called hot coffee could even become the final nail in the coffin of the GTA series. Since the topic is very interesting, today we will present the whole outline of this event. But not only that. Additionally, we would like to discuss recent discoveries made by players in this area after the remasters of the trilogy from the 3D universe were released. Welcome back to the Gaming Investigators channel. And now, without further ado, let's get with today's video. We think that, at the beginning, it would be good to start by telling about what hot coffee is. After all, perhaps there are people here who have never heard of it. Just to make a long story short, hot coffee refers to how the game relates to sex scenes that we have never seen before. When CJ's girlfriend invites him to her house after a successful date, the screen goes dark, and after a while, we get a view from the camera in front of CJ's girlfriend's house. We see then how the camera enthusiastically moves to different sides, which can be compared to the situation when we use the services of prostitutes. Besides, during these scenes, we can also hear groans in the background, followed by some lines of dialogue between CJ and his girlfriend.
Oh, Carl, you're amazing!
Oh, go on.
CJ, you pushed my buttons, baby.
However, the whole story behind this is more complicated. It all started in mid-June 2005 when a patch called Hot Coffee Mod was released to the game by Patrick Wildenborg, a 38-year-old modder from the Netherlands. The man looked through the game files and luckily found the game code lines responsible for launching a certain minigame, which was of course disabled in the game itself. After installing the patch, users could enter the homes of the protagonist's girlfriends and take part in this primitively made minigame simulating full-clothed or fully naked sexual intercourse. However, this was only the beginning of the problems because soon after that, the console hacker named JFNG released the Action Replay Power Save modification, which enabled the launch of Hot Coffee Mod on the Xbox and PlayStation 2 versions of the game. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of thousands of players around the world could play GTA San Andreas without censorship. Of course, it was impossible to keep it a secret, because soon there was a lot of video material presenting this controversial minigame on the internet. The truth came out pretty quickly, as the Hot Coffee Mod was getting mentioned more and more often in the mass media. In response, lawyer Jack Thompson and other anti-gaming lawyers denounced Hot Coffee Mod in the media, arguing that it was a game feature that was easily accessible to children, with the consequent demoralization. Adding to this the fact that the ESRB learned about the whole incident on July 20, 2005, the production of GTA San Andreas was suspended, and the game received a new rating, becoming a game intended only for adults. This, in turn, led many retailers to withdraw the game from their shelves in line with their store regulations that prevented them from selling adult-only games. Naturally, Rockstar North was not going to sit idle and soon released a patch called Cold Coffee for the PC versions, which allowed the developers to re-release GTA San Andreas and receive the expected mature rating. It was a very good move because it enabled selling the game again in stores that had a tighter policy. Unfortunately, the case was not finally considered closed, because there was still the question of verifying whether Rockstar North could go unpunished. It is worth mentioning that initially, the developers assured that the released versions of the game were infected by hackers who had added a controversial minigame themselves, and the developers had nothing to do with it. As a result, various politicians, including US Senator Hillary Clinton, launched an investigation through the FTC agency into Hot Coffee Mod. Clinton called on her associates to take immediate action to determine the source of the pornographic content appearing in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. In response to a request from Hillary Clinton, Fred Upton submitted a resolution to enforce the federal mandate of the ESRB's rating system to protect children from inappropriate content. 355 people voted in favor of the resolution, while 21 objected. Thus, initially, the draft was passed on, which happened in December 2005, but without going into details, the law did not enter into force. On the other hand, on January 27, 2006, the city of Los Angeles brought a lawsuit against Take-Two Interactive, the game's publisher, accusing the company of not disclosing erotic content in the game. The court case dragged on for quite a long time, but on June 8, 2006, all parties agreed on the terms of the settlement. Take-Two and Rockstar in general have been supposed to clearly and prominently display the erotic content on product packaging and in any promotions or game advertisements unless such content has been previously disclosed. If the companies breach the settlement, then they will be liable in the amount of $11,000. In the following months, Take-Two heard further lawsuits from lawyers, this time accusing the company of committing consumer fraud. To deal with this, Take-Two announced a settlement proposal on November 8, 2007. Under the proposed settlement, consumers will be able to replace their AO-rated copies of the game with M-rated versions, and may also be eligible for a cash payment of $35 in compensation upon signing a sworn statement. As it turned out, a report from the New York Times on June 25, 2008 revealed a total of 2,676 granted claims. This was not enough for lawyers, however, as attorney Ted Frank filed an objection to the proposed Take-Two settlement in 2008, arguing that they had also agreed to donate $1 million in attorney's fees when the total payment was less than $27,000. Moving on June 25, 2008, another court hearing was scheduled to finally resolve the long-lasting conflict. Ultimately, it did not produce the expected results, but as part of the settlement, Take-Two agreed to pay out $873,000 to the National Parent-Teacher Association and the ESRB. The scandal officially ended in September 2009. The class action was dismissed in exchange for a total payment of $20,115,000 to a settlement fund for the benefit of class members, of which $15,200,000 will be paid by Take-Two's insurance carriers and $4,915,000 will be paid by Take-Two. As a curiosity, we will add that the actor who voiced one of the characters from the game, Mike Torino to be precise, commented on the whole situation. The actor's statements show that he did not know that the game would contain such controversial content, so we can conclude that he would not have taken part in the project if he had known about everything from the very beginning. In the meantime, it's time to move on to the second part of the episode, which will be devoted to elements abandoned or removed from the game, possibly due to the same reasons as the hot coffee minigame. The list of such things is quite extensive. We already know from the previous part of the episode that the game was to include a minigame related to having sex, including access to CJ's girlfriend's apartments. In the current version of the game, at least without any mods or the use of tricks, we can't get there. The only thing is, during one of the missions in the game, we see what Millie Perkins' apartment in Las Venturas looks like. Furthermore, in the game world, it is possible to find rooms that were supposed to appear in the final version. They are brothels. If you associate a place like Hidden Universe, you know that in this dimension, we can find all rooms created for the game, including unused ones. Currently, you can see 2 brothels on the screen that were meant to appear in the game. You can easily see that they are well developed, which confirms that they were meant to be available to the player. Nevertheless, there is another brothel that stands out significantly from the rest, and that is Fanny Batter's brothel. After entering this room, we can immediately see a lot of erotic pictures or other subtexts visible on the walls of the building. Obviously, Rockstar North wanted this place to be one of the most visited places by us, but the amount of adult content meant that they had to give it up. Another element that was abandoned are prostitutes, 2 of them to be exact. Currently, in the attached pictures, you can see how both ladies were supposed to look in the game itself. It is worth mentioning that both women were found in the original game files, from which it is known that a black CSHO prostitute was supposed to be appearing near a sex shop in the Vinewood district. On the other hand, looking at a CSPRO prostitute, one can get the impression that she could respawn in rural or desert areas. And there are 3 very unusual in-game features that we learned about via the game files from the early Defective Edition. The first one is about sex shops. As you probably know, there's nothing we can do when we go to the sex shop in the game. However, it turns out that the developers planned that we could buy erotic toys in such stores. This can be deduced, for example, from the photo that is just shown on the screen. Another very exotic aspect in GTA San Andreas was supposed to be blowjobs. Yes, you heard it right. Rockstar North even planned to introduce these kinds of activities. Interestingly, the game files on the Defective Edition show that CJ could experience this kind of thing both in the car and while on foot. In this regard, you might think that originally CJ had the opportunity to enjoy such pleasure from prostitutes, and not necessarily from his girlfriends. In favor of this statement is the fact that improved prostitute services were introduced later in GTA 4, where Nico has a wide range of prostitute services available. Nevertheless, this does not exclude the possibility that maybe also CJ's girls, when they somehow particularly liked their dates, could offer CJ such a pleasurable moment. And the last change that would probably be a definite crossing the line on the part of the creators was the possibility of having sex with CJ's girlfriend in public. In short, when dating, some girls might want CJ to go somewhere secluded with them and, do the thing there instead of in their houses. While summarizing this episode, we must admit that Rockstar North had an interesting vision when it comes to the sexual elements in GTA San Andreas. Considering what games the parts of the Grand Theft Auto series are, it cannot be denied that many players regret that the creators had to get rid of such controversial aspects of gameplay. After all, they just fit the whole picture in a way. Nevertheless, the controversy that emerged after it all came to light was enormous, and Rockstar probably made a good decision by giving up those crazy ideas. Meanwhile, if you want to learn more about the beta content in GTA Vice City, we recommend you watch the episode that appears on the screen. For now, thank you for watching and for the great support you show us in the form of subscriptions, comments, and ratings of our videos. Take care, and see you in the next episode. Bye!